You're up at 2 a.m., phone screen burning holes in your retinas. One link says some people can survive on pure cosmic energy instead of food. Sure. Then 3 clicks later, you land on a forum where the members claim the most ethical thing you can do for Earth is stop existing. And that's when you realize the internet didn't just invent weird hobbies. It gave cults a second life. This is the disturbing online cult Iceberg. Let's get into it. Tier 1. QAnon. What if I told you a cryptic internet post once convinced thousands of people that the world was secretly run by child-eating elites? That's exactly what happened in 2017 when someone calling themselves Q made a post on 4chan that read, "The message read calm before the storm." It was short, cryptic, and just mysterious enough to send conspiracy theorists into overdrive. According to Q, the storm was going to be a massive government takedown of thousands of powerful people who were secretly child-eating PDF files. Q claimed to have Q clearance, which supposedly gave them access to top-secret government intelligence. In reality, no one knew if Q was a single person, a group, or just a bored troll who thought they were living in the Matrix. By late 2017, Q's posts had escalated into full-blown conspiracy theories. And some were so extreme they sounded like rejected movie plots. One claimed there was a video of Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin unaliving a child and drinking its blood. And another said Trump's enemies would soon commit mass self-killing. There were also predictions that Mark Zuckerberg would abandon Facebook and the United States entirely, and that Kim Jong-un was actually a CIA puppet. Almost none of these predictions came true, but that didn't slow anyone down. In Q's version of reality, Donald Trump was secretly fighting a global cabal of Satan-worshipping child mistreaters who controlled the world. Q's followers clung to every post like scripture, ready to back the cause in any way they could. They even set up live streams on YouTube to discuss intel, ask for donations, and recruit new believers. When Q decided 4chan had been infiltrated, they all moved to 8chan, where the theories multiplied even faster. Then came the big offline moment. In July 2018, QAnon spilled into the real world at a Trump rally in Florida. Dozens showed up in Q shirts, waving Q slogans on signs. A handful even co-authored a book called QAnon, An Invitation to the Great Awakening, which they sold on Amazon. And because this was America, people actually bought it. Some pastors even worked QAnon ideas into their sermons so they could blend Bible verses with internet conspiracies to give the whole thing a divine spin. When it became clear things were getting out of hand, social media companies finally tried to shut it down. In 2020, Twitter banned over 7,000 QAnon-linked accounts, while Facebook deleted every group and page connected to the movement. The crackdown helped reduce the cult's reach, but it didn't end them. QAnon still exists today, and rumor has it they're still meddling in politics across several countries. If you think this one's unhinged, wait till Tier 5, where you'll see a group that decided the best way to rebel online was to mix Satan worship with conspiracy rabbit holes. NXIVM. You walk into a packed seminar hall in 1998, and the air is buzzing with excitement. The banners say NXIVM, and on stage is Keith Raniere, the guy who runs the show, calling himself a personal growth expert, while his partner, Nancy Salzman, stands right beside him. They're pitching the whole thing as a multi-level marketing company that offers life-changing seminars. And judging by the crowd of eager faces, the pitch is clearly working. Keith's main product was a series of workshops called Executive Success Programs, where people paid thousands to sit in a room and listen to him explain how to reach their potential. It looked, for all intents and purposes, like just another expensive self-help course. But behind the scenes, things were already starting to get weird. By 2003, NXIVM had over 3,000 people on the books. And it wasn't just regular folks either. There were CEOs, socialites, and even the daughter of a former Mexican president. During seminars, everyone had to call Keith Vanguard and Nancy Prefect. He said it was because he was leading some grand philosophical movement, and she was his first student. In reality, Vanguard was also the name of a 1981 video game he liked. Well, that's convenient. Keith and Nancy both ran official NXIVM websites that openly praised themselves while spreading NXIVM's teachings. But the outside world was starting to catch on. In 2003, cult investigator Rick Ross published details from the group's secret training manuals, calling it brainwashing. Forbes followed up with an article featuring an ex-member who said the same thing. Most negative press followed in the years after, but NXIVM continued operating for over 2 decades without collapsing. That changed in 2017, when former members went to state authorities and the New York Times exposed a secret women-only subgroup called DOS. It was short for a Latin phrase meaning Master of the Obedient Female Companions, which already sounds questionable, but the structure was worse. It started in 2015 with 8 women, including Smallville actress Allison Mack, and each of them recruited others. To join, women had to hand over collateral, which would usually be things like nude photos, explicit videos, financial documents, and personal secrets. And they had to keep sending more every month. This gave Keith everything he needed to control them. Over 150 women were pulled into DOS, told it would empower them, then used as slaves for Keith. He even had his initials branded on their skin, disguised as a symbol. Once the article went public, the investigation moved fast. Keith fled to Mexico, but was caught in 2018 and sent back to the US. He and several top members, including Mac, were charged with racketeering, trafficking, and other crimes. Keith's career as a self-help guru ended with a 120-year prison sentence. Nancy got 3.5 years. Men Going Their Own Way. Men Going Their Own Way, or MGTOW, is a group of guys who decided women were the root of all their problems and thought, you know what, let's just quit them. It started in the early 2000s, first parading as some big rebellion against traditional masculinity, but quickly turned into an anti-women clubhouse where bitterness is the only membership fee. Things really kicked off in 2014, after an article called The Sexodus claimed feminism killed men's interest in relationships, sex, and marriage, which honestly sounds more like an excuse for not getting texts back than an actual cultural shift. MGTOW found a home on Reddit, where men gathered to complain that society is rigged against them, and that the best survival strategy is avoiding women altogether. Their strictest rule was no sex, but of course, some of them accidentally bend the rules with casual hookups. As long as they didn't catch feelings, it was considered okay. The community runs on heavy misogyny, fueled by red pill nonsense and Andrew Tate-style rants about how women in marriage are nothing but traps. According to them, women get all the freedom, men get all the heartbreak, and the solution is to just sit online and brood about it. There isn't a single leader, but they like to split themselves into levels. Level 1 guys think women are manipulative, but still want to get married. Level 2 rejects marriage, but keeps casual relationships. Level 3 cuts out all romance completely, and avoids women like they're radioactive. And then there's Level 4, the end game. That's when they give up on women, society, and even working altogether. Reddit eventually banned a lot of their groups for being too toxic, but MGTOW didn't disappear. They just slithered into the darker corners of the internet, where they kept spreading their wisdom for anyone bitter enough to listen. And while most of it's just online ranting, the ideology has bled into the real world. In April 2025, a man named Owen Oz Lawrence, who identified with MGTOW, attacked 2 women in England. Weeks before, he'd posted on Facebook blaming women for all of society's problems and hinting at his plans. Turns out, the men avoiding women thing doesn't always stop at avoiding. Love Has Won. Love Has Won started with Amy Carlson, a McDonald's manager from Texas who one day decided her life needed a serious upgrade. That upgrade came in the form of online New Age philosophy forums like lightworkers.org. That's where she met a guy named Amaranth White Eagle. He convinced her she was divine, and well, she ran with it. By 2007, Amy quit her job and ditched her family to move to Colorado with Amaranth. But by 2014, she decided she was done with him, so she split and launched her own movement. She streamed daily on YouTube and Facebook, pulling in anyone who was curious or desperate enough to listen. Amy called herself Mother God, claiming to be the 534th incarnation of a divine being. Her mission was to lead 144,000 people out of this boring 3D reality and into a 5D world. According to her, she had lived past lives as Mother Earth, Cleopatra, Marilyn Monroe, and even remembered being crucified as Jesus. And somehow, that was the least outrageous part of her story. Amy told her followers she communicated regularly with a group called the Galactics. This was not your average club. It included dead celebrities like John Lennon, Whitney Houston, and Tupac, plus living ones like Donald Trump. She claimed Trump was her spiritual father, which tells you how far off the rails she'd gone. She declared herself a spiritual surgeon who would cure diseases like cancer, Lyme disease, brain tumors, and autism by working from a multidimensional plane. If you were sick, all you had to do was find Mother God for a miracle. Who needs modern medicine? Despite how wild that sounds, Amy, aka Mother God, actually had followers who believed her every word and even praised her. You might have seen her on Dr. Phil in 2020 explaining her mission as Mother God. Unfortunately, Amy was not immortal. In April 2021, police found her mummified body inside a sleeping bag. She was wrapped in Christmas lights, glitter covered her face, and her eyes were missing. The scene turned out to be a shrine built by her followers. An autopsy would later reveal that she died from anorexia, alcohol abuse, and chronic colloidal silver ingestion. Apparently, she promoted colloidal silver as the cure for COVID-19 and ingested large amounts of it till she died. In the end, her miracle cure worked a little too well, just not in the way she hoped it would. After Amy's death, Love Has Won fractured, but it didn't go away completely. Some members rebranded as 5D Full Disclosure and continued streaming their strange beliefs to this day. But this is just a warm-up. Down in Tier 5, there's one that openly encourages cannibalism, as long as you didn't kill the person first. 7M Films. If you're a TikTok dancer, there's a small chance your big break could actually be an audition for a cult. That's what Netflix's 2024 docuseries Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok cult, made a lot of creators realize. Sometimes you can literally dance your way into trouble. 7M Films was founded in 2021 by Pastor Robert Shin. On paper, it was a talent management company that provided TikTok influencers with everything, from makeup and wardrobe to promotion. Their methods, however, raised more than a few eyebrows. Before running 7M, Robert had founded the Shekinah Church in 1994 and started more than a dozen other entertainment-related businesses. For years, everything stayed under the radar. Then he stepped into the TikTok scene, and his approach began to draw public attention. The story blew up in 2022 when the family of TikToker Miranda Wilking went live on Instagram to try to reach her. Miranda and her sister Melanie used to dance together online, but after signing with 7M, Miranda joined the Shekinah Church and began pulling away from her family. During that live stream, Miranda's family said they hadn't had real contact with her in years. She even got married without telling them. A similar situation had happened years earlier. Sisters Melanie and Priscilla Lee joined the Shekinah Church in 1999 and lived in the same house as other members for years. Eventually, Melanie left and tried to convince Priscilla to come with her, but Priscilla refused and cut her off completely. Former members featured in the Netflix series described Robert's teachings in ways that sounded spiritual, but functioned like isolation tactics. He told his followers they needed to die to themselves and their families. To put it simply, he told them to abandon their personal life and relationships. Robert has also been accused of emotional and other types of abuse by former dancers and church members. Through all of it, both he and 7M have publicly denied any wrongdoing. Twin Flames Universe. Most people picture meeting their soulmate in some normal setting, maybe at a cafe or even at a friend's party. But for others, the search for the one leads straight into the world of Twin Flames Universe, or TFU. Its founders, Jeff and Shalea Devine, say that everyone has a twin flame, which is basically an upgraded soulmate. You might start out Googling dating tips, and before you know it, you're on a website promising to help you meet yours. For a fee, of course. It all started as a blog called Awakened Intimacy. Then it expanded to YouTube and Facebook, and by 2017, Twin Flames Universe was officially a thing. Their videos and posts brought in thousands of followers, which made it easy to start selling online courses. The sales pitch is simple. You don't have to find your twin flame yourself, because Jeff and Shalea will do it for you. You take a test, they assign your match, and you're encouraged to pursue them no matter how many times they turn you down. Predictably, chasing random people around while shouting about Desteni didn't land anyone a soulmate. It just got them restraining orders and criminal charges. In some cases, your so-called twin flame might not even be a gender you're into. But here, Jeff and Shalea are the ones holding the phone and doing the hypothetical swiping. Members have been told to change their wardrobe, their hairstyle, even their entire identity just to match the relationship. Some have gone as far as transitioning to a different gender just to fit the assignment. TFU's signature tool is something called the mirror exercise, where you identify a problem and then somehow decide it's all your fault. If you're heartbroken, it's not because the other person ghosted you. It's because your spiritual progress is incomplete. And conveniently, the fix always seems to involve buying another course. By 2019, TFU took things up a notch by creating the Church of Union, which aims to unite all religions under one roof. Their leadership titles sound like something out of a religious monarchy. Jeff is Father Christ, Shalea is Mother Christ, and their daughter is Princess of All Creation. A 2023 docuseries called Escaping Twin Flames brought global attention to the group, with former members describing it as less about romance and more about control, which in hindsight kind of makes sense. If your soulmate has to be assigned to you by someone calling themselves Father Christ, chances are you're not in a rom-com anymore. As bad as this sounds, wait until you hear about the Tier 4 cults that tell people to starve themselves in preparation to meet Jesus. Tier 2. UNICULT. If you thought the weirdest thing on YouTube was a guy unboxing 50 flavors of Mountain Dew, think again. Somewhere between meditation tutorials and conspiracy theories sits UNICULT, run by Unicol. Unicol might look like someone who just enjoys glitter, pastel colors, and cute clothes. But behind all that is a self-proclaimed spiritual leader with beliefs that feel like they were pulled from several different galaxies at once. She describes UNICULT as a community built to spread joy, though her definition of joy is unique. In one video, she calmly explains how she once attempted to off herself, which says led her to realize she was the reincarnation of a being of light. From then on, she decided her purpose was to help others heal. In other videos, she goes on about spiritual downloads from space, chakras, and the galactic consciousness, and then throws in a rant about how a woman with a cyclical mind, whatever that's supposed to mean, can't thrive in a patriarchal corporate world. But she doesn't stop at harmless mysticism. During COVID-19, she told her followers to skip the vaccine. And in a 51-minute video, she claimed the virus couldn't touch her because her internal vibration was just too strong for it. Some people joined UNICULT on their own, while others were recruited directly by UNICULT. One woman said UNICULT contacted her after reading an article she wrote about gender and artificial intelligence. Instead of discussing the article, UNICULT offered her a spot in a secret group called 3v3, a circle of witches combining magic with technology to push for matriarchal change in the digital world. Joining wasn't free. There was an $11.11 fee, and you had to fill out paperwork, which kinda ruins the whole magic thing. UNICULT told the woman she was trying to recruit that the whole thing had to stay secret, and after months of gentle prodding, the woman finally signed up. We don't know much else since she kept quiet about what went on inside, but UNICULT is still online, and UNICULT is still out there, looking for anyone willing to buy into her glitter-coated space-age worldview. Teal Tribe. From the outside, the Teal Tribe looks like a bunch of regular people taking wellness courses and working through old trauma. But at the center of it is Teal Swan, a wellness coach and self-proclaimed clairvoyant whose idea of healing has left a lot of people more confused than cured. She says she first noticed her abilities at age 5 when she realized she could read minds. Her mother was terrified, which is understandable. Having a 5-year-old announce your thoughts out loud isn't exactly a party trick. Starting from age 6, a family friend gave her substances and subjected her to years of severe mistreatment under the excuse of trying to fix her. By the time she turned 17, she had attempted to end her own life. Somewhere in between, she says she was initiated into 2 different satanic groups, where she took part in sacrifices and rituals. Eventually, she got out and tried to move on. Within a few years, she launched a YouTube channel and started sharing videos about mental health, self-help, and manifestation. The channel blew up, and soon she had over 1 million followers who now call themselves the Teal Tribe. After writing books, hosting events, and doing talk shows, Teal became the kind of leader her followers idolized. One follower believes she's Jesus, another thinks she's here to heal everyone, and one very dedicated fan has a tattoo of her face on his arm. So what is Teal actually teaching her tribe? Well, she says she helps people uncover the truth of the universe and learn how to address their emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual struggles. Yet somewhere in those teachings, she encourages followers to see self-ending as a reset button, and even suggests visualizing the act as a way to end pain, which, yes, that would end the pain. It also ends the person, but that detail doesn't get much airtime in her talks. Critics have questioned her methods for years, but Teal isn't slowing down, and neither are her followers. Her story and practices have been the focus of a 2017 documentary, Open Shadow, the story of Teal Swan, and the docuseries The Deep End. To this day, Teal still uploads videos to YouTube and firmly denies being a cult leader. This sounds crazy, but in Tier 5, you'll learn about the group where the leader claims to channel demons while streaming on YouTube. University of Cosmic Intelligence. The University of Cosmic Intelligence sounds like one of those places where you get a degree in star reading or astrology. But nope, it's actually the brainchild of Rashad Jamal White, a guy with a criminal history who somehow became an online cult leader. Before Rashad rebranded as a spiritual guide, his life was full of serious legal troubles. He had multiple convictions for battery, strangulation, and suffocation. At one point, he was even charged with murder, though that didn't end in a conviction. Somewhere along the way, Rashad figured it was time for a change, and that's when he started the University of Cosmic Intelligence, or UCI for short. The problem is that there were no classrooms and no campus, just a bunch of videos and a confusing mix of beliefs. On TikTok and YouTube, Rashad calls himself Divine Insight and claims he is a god on a mission to heal planet Earth. When he isn't busy healing, his job is to enlighten people, raise the planet's frequency, and get rid of parasitical invaders, whatever those are. According to Rashad, Black and Latino people are gods and goddesses who he calls carbonated beings. He insists African Americans are the true Native Americans and not descendants of African slaves. The rest of us, apparently, are aliens who don't originally come from Earth. His followers are taught all sorts of conspiracies. Rashad says the government controls the weather using machines disguised as 5G towers. If the president wants rain, all they have to do is push a button. He also claims presidents and elite families are shape-shifting reptilians who feed on the blood of those gods. That's offensive in about 1,000 different ways, but you haven't heard the worst of it yet. Rashad says NBA players aren't humans. They're synthetic robots. Then there's the claim that birds aren't real and that what we see flying around are just government tracking devices. Believe it or not, some people actually fall for this and treat it like fact. As Rashad's fame grew, he seemed to forget he wasn't above the law. Before long, the University of Cosmic Intelligence got linked to several crimes, including murders. Then, in 2023, Rashad was sentenced to 18 years for assaulting a 10-year-old girl. Even behind bars, his followers stick by him, claiming he's innocent and that the University of Cosmic Intelligence will carry on. That kind of blind loyalty isn't rare around here. In fact, when we get to Tier 3, you'll see a group just as convinced the world is secretly run by shape-shifting lizards. And they mean every word of it. Freedom Domain Radio. Freedom Domain Radio sounds like something you'd tune into while driving home in traffic. And in the beginning, it kind of was. Stefan Molyneux, an Irish-born Canadian, started a show back in 2004 as a solo project. In the beginning, it was just him, his mic, some opinions, and a little too much free time. But over the years, it exploded into an endless stream of episodes that somehow hooked a massive audience by the early 2020s. Stefan likes to call himself a philosopher and an anarcho-capitalist. Critics have called him everything from white supremacist to conspiracy theorist to internet crank. And some of his conspiracy theories are, let's just say, creative. In 2017, most people left Star Wars The Last Jedi arguing about plot holes. But Stefan walked out, convinced the movie was a secret warning about white people being persecuted and wiped out. According to him, all of this was hidden inside a movie about space wizards waving glowing sticks around. But he doesn't stop there. He's also claimed that black people are generally less intelligent than other races, and that women are the root of all violence because how mothers treat their kids decides if humanity faces war, addiction, and moral collapse. His solution is pretty simple and very straightforward. If women were just nicer to the children, every global problem would disappear. No, seriously, that's it. That's the $1 million solution. Stefan has also said that modern feminism is actually a scheme to lower white Christian birth rates. He suggested banning lipstick in offices because it signals arousal. According to him, if men can't show up to work with visible stiffies, women shouldn't wear lipstick either. Yes, he made that connection out loud. When he's not blaming women for the downfall of civilization, Stefan tells his audience to cut ties with their family of origin. He argues that parents and relatives might be holding you back, and some listeners have actually gone as far as cutting ties completely. Over time, groups and journalists started describing Free Domain Radio as a cult. Stefan's been banned from PayPal, MailChimp, YouTube, and SoundCloud for violating hate speech rules. Even so, he still finds ways to keep broadcasting his worldview to anyone willing to listen. Church of Reality. The Church of Reality doesn't have a cathedral, a building, or even a meeting place. It exists entirely on a website that looks a bit mysterious, and its creator has a lot to say. The doctrine here is pretty straightforward. If it's real, we believe in it. According to its founder, Mark Perkel, the whole thing started while he was at home smoking a joint. His mind drifted to the subject of religion, how much he disliked it, and the chaos it's caused. That was when he came up with the idea for a religion based entirely on reality. Most religions have at least some fictional elements, but Mark wanted nothing to do with that. The next morning, he registered the church's domain name, and what started as a high thought quickly became an actual religion. The problem was figuring out what exactly counts as reality. The Church of Reality's mission became the pursuit of reality itself, and since no one can really define it, the goal is to keep searching. In this church, reality is God, and science is the Bible. When deciding what is real and isn't real, the church uses its own sacred method, which involves evidence, proof, logic, and reasoning. Mark admits this is not foolproof, and if they discover they are wrong about something, they will change their minds because the mission is to find reality, not cling to mistakes. Interestingly, the Church of Reality still borrows a few ideas from traditional religions. It believes in the tree of knowledge mentioned in Christianity and Islam, but instead of separating good from evil, their tree separates truth from fiction. Joining this church isn't really difficult. All you need to do is read through thousands of words, ideas, and terms on the website. Believe in reality, and voila, you are now a realist. Later in Tier 3, we'll hit a group whose theology makes less sense the more you try to understand it. In the meantime, let's talk about the people who say Control-C and Control-V are sacred. Kopimism. Kopimism is a religion that worships the copy and paste function on your keyboard. In this belief system, Control-C and Control-V are treated like holy symbols. And yes, people signed up for this with a straight face. The term "copy me" first popped up in the early 2000s on a pirate agency forum. One of the founders, Isaac Gerson, grabbed the word, gave it meaning, and turned it into a movement. He argued that the universe runs on data sharing, cells replicate, and DNA copies itself, so the internet should be allowed to do the same without restrictions. Plenty of people liked the idea, so the missionary church of Kopimism was born. Followers believe communication is sacred, hoarding information is a sin, and everything from music to movies to software should move freely from one person to the next. They even consider copy mixing, which is taking someone's work, remixing it with something else, and passing it on. A sacred act. In January 2012, Sweden officially recognized Kopimism as a religion with about 4,000 members. They don't have a god, per se, but some members treat Copy Me like a spiritual presence. They also hold copy acting gatherings, where people share files using photocopiers, probably because emailing them wouldn't feel holy enough. Later in April 2012, they held their first wedding in Belgrade. The church said they hoped the couple would copy and remix their genes to create another human, which is one way to explain having kids to your in-laws. Speaking of things that are awkward to explain, in Tier 4, you'll see a group that's part parody, part religion, and somehow still has people taking it completely seriously. Tier 3. The Zizians. The Zizians are a group of rationalists led by a transgender woman named Jack Ziz Lasada. In 2013, Lasada graduated from the University of Alaska Fairbanks with a degree in computer science. A few years later, she moved to San Francisco and landed an internship at NASA. By 2016, she was doing something very different on the side. She began posting her darker thoughts on a blog under the username Ziz. One of her stranger theories was that the two hemispheres of the human brain could hold two different genders and value systems, and the two sides were basically at war with each other, trying to wipe the other out. Her blog covered everything from technology and philosophy to culture and computer programming. She also wrote about how she had lost interest in people altogether and wanted to live the rest of her life in isolation. That isolation didn't really happen because she ended up attracting quite a following. The group shared beliefs in veganism, anarchism, and the potential dangers of artificial intelligence. They also practiced something called unihemispheric sleep, or UHS, where they deliberately deprived themselves of sleep. This was supposed to liberate their minds, though no one could really explain how. And in 2018, one member took their own life, with many blaming the UHS practice. The followers didn't exactly love being called Zizians, but the name stuck because of their leader. They might have remained just another fringe internet community with unusual ideas, but things escalated into violence, and that's how they became popular. In 2022, Lasada faked her own death to avoid a court hearing. She even convinced her lawyer to tell people she had died in a boating accident, and the story made news. Weeks later, she and some followers attacked a man whose land they had been living on, stabbing him 50 times. 1 month after that, an elderly couple were found dead in their home. Their daughter had ties to the group and was named a person of interest. Over time, the Zizians were linked to multiple murders and even a shootout at the US border. In February 2025, Lasada was arrested for trespassing, obstructing an officer, and transporting firearms. Since she's been behind bars, no one really knows what happened to her followers or what they've been up to. Later in this tier, you'll meet the Jesus Christians, a group so devoted they literally donated kidneys to strangers as part of their faith. Alien Reptilian Cult. You've probably heard about lizard people, and if you haven't, lucky you. Though that luck's about to run out. According to a woman named Sherry Schreiner, they are reptilian humanoids who can shapeshift into humans and are everywhere. Sherry's story was strange right from the start. She said that when she was a kid, one of Lucifer's top demon generals used to watch over her bed every night. As she got older, more demons showed up to join the watch party. At one point, they started stalking her in broad daylight, so she turned to God for protection. That's when she claimed God started sending her prophetic visions. And naturally, she decided the internet needed to hear them. She set up websites, blogs, Facebook pages, and eventually a YouTube channel. And soon, what began as sharing her visions morphed into something much darker. Across 240 videos that racked up over 30 million views, Sherry gathered a loyal following who called her servant, prophet, ambassador, daughter, and messenger of the Most High God, which is a lot of titles for someone live streaming lizard warnings from their living room. Her central message was that Earth had been infiltrated by reptilian demons working for the devil. They could shapeshift into humans, crawl into our bodies, and slowly turn us into one of them. To prove it, she pointed to odd photos of celebrities, claiming they were reptiles in human suits. Miley Cyrus, Taylor Swift, you name it. If they were famous and on camera, Sherry probably had them halfway to shedding scales. In her writings, she said God had chosen her to prepare humanity for an alien invasion. Then, in 2017, she casually added that Lucifer apparently had a sister who was living among us. Her followers didn't just believe it. They started treating random strangers like undercover reptiles. The first major crack in the group came in 2012, when a 19-year-old member died from an overdose of sleeping pills. Not long before, Sherry had told her not to waste her final days on Earth going to college. So, naturally, her death was directly tied to the group's teachings. Things spiraled again in 2017, when Barbara Rogers and Stephen Mineo were expelled. Stephen and Barbara were a couple and avid members of the cult, but when Stephen posted online about eating raw meat, Sherry labeled him a vampire witch reptilian super soldier and cut them off. Not long after, Barbara shot Stephen dead, claiming he'd made her do it. She was convicted and sentenced to 15 to 40 years in prison. Sherry herself died in 2021 from causes that have never been made public. But her videos and writings are still floating around the internet, just waiting for the next person to start wondering if their favorite pop star is hiding a tail. Keep going and you'll meet the Breatharians, the people who swear they can survive without food or water, which is definitely not how biology works. Cantelmolism. Cantelmolism is what you get when a Yale-trained biochemist decides the answer to life, death, and the universe is a psychedelic drug. Chris Cantelmo, the Yale graduate we're talking about, spent years working in biochemistry before his life took a sharp turn. In 2013, he was diagnosed with brain cancer. On top of that, he struggled with anxiety and depression, and had already tried to take his life twice. By January 2018, he made a third attempt. He called his children to say goodbye, but they weren't having it. They called the police, who intervened and had him placed in a psychiatric facility for a short stay. That's where Cantelmo decided he'd found the cure for all his problems. His miracle cure? DMT. He took it, tripped, and came back insisting he'd seen the divine. Problem solved, apparently. By 2019, he was on Reddit promoting DMT as a miracle drug that had cured his cancer. His posts drew followers, and the more attention he got, the further he pushed. He targeted youth-heavy subreddits, paid people to spread his message, and framed DMT as a cure for everything, from cancer to atheism. Cantelmo claimed that oral or vape DMT lets you see spirits and guardian angels that were already around you, just hidden without the chemical boost. He also said schizophrenia and autism were essentially the same thing, and that people with these conditions were geniuses meant to lead humanity. It didn't stop there. He pushed sun gazing as a way to stimulate the pineal gland and make more DMT naturally. And, in a plot twist worthy of a late-night sci-fi show, he warned that an apocalyptic war was coming, and announced that DMT could act as a vaccine against alien attacks. In November 2019, Cantelmo went out for a walk and never returned. It later came out that he had taken his own life by stabbing himself multiple times. Most of his posts have since been wiped, but pockets of believers still see him as a prophet of the drug. Jesus Christians. The Jesus Christians keep things pretty simple. Their main doctrine is to give up all personal possessions and live entirely by faith in God. And that's it. The movement began in Australia in 1981, when Dave and Sherry McKay decided to set up small communes and live a life of poverty. The group spends most of their time evangelizing through books, pamphlets, comics, and DVDs, but their real boost came from YouTube. Their channel, A Voice in the Desert, which Dave launched in 2016, focuses on various aspects of Christianity. It now has over 140,000 subscribers and more than 13 million views. The Jesus Christians are big on Jesus' Sermon on the Mount and stress that you can't serve God and money at the same time. While their videos helped them gain a following, it was their public stunts that really grabbed attention. In 2006, Dave and Cherry held a public event in California where members were whipped as atonement for other people's sins. As crazy as that sounds, it's pretty tame when you put it side by side with their most notorious practice, which is kidney donation. It started when Dave gave one of his kidneys to a stranger as an act of faith. Since then, kidney donation has become almost a rite of passage in the group. Their website even defends it by pointing to Apostle Paul's letter to the Romans, where he urged believers to present their bodies as living sacrifices. They somehow read that as time to donate your kidneys, and dozens did. Over the years, more than 30 members have given their kidneys to strangers or fellow members. This earned them the nickname the Kidney Cult and made people wary. At one point, Dave admitted that some Australian members had lied to health authorities just to get the chance to donate. By 2007, one member was fighting for the right to donate his kidney to a stranger. His parents tried to stop him, but he was determined. He even appeared in a documentary about his struggle. In 2008, he finally went through with it, then left the group shortly afterward. Away from all the kidney stuff, there's also a criminal side to the Jesus Christians. In 2021, Pablo Salom, who runs an anti-cult group, accused them of violating human rights. He even hinted that their kidney donations might actually be organ trafficking in disguise. After 2 years of digging, authorities found no link to trafficking or any other crimes, just a lot of voluntary kidney surgeries. Despite the controversies, the Jesus Christians, aka the Kidney Cult, still run a growing YouTube channel. Thousands continue to watch their videos, hear their teachings, and even join the group. Breatharianism. Breatharianism is the belief that humans can survive without food or water. Followers think that if you stop eating long enough, your body will switch modes and start running on prana, sunlight, and fresh air. Prana, according to them, is some kind of magical life force inside you. In theory, you could ditch grocery shopping forever and just sit in the sun, inhaling dinner like a houseplant. The movement's most famous promoter is an Australian woman named Jasmuheen, who became the face of Breatharianism in 1992. She claimed it was inspired by fasting traditions from Tibetan monks and said she could telepathically communicate with ascended masters. She set up a website filled with videos and posts explaining the lifestyle. And in one of her books, she suggested that not eating or drinking could cure anorexia and end world hunger. In 1999, an Australian TV program decided to put her claims to the test. They offered her a 7-day monitored fast, complete with a hotel room, a security guard, and a doctor checking on her regularly. It was meant to be her big moment to prove everyone wrong. Within 2 days, she was already dehydrated. Her blood pressure was rising, and her body was clearly struggling. She blamed it on polluted air and asked to be moved to a cleaner location. They took her to a mountainside retreat, but her health only got worse. By day 4, she had lost 14 pounds. Her pupils were dilated, and she was speaking slowly. Yet she kept insisting she was fine. The doctor overseeing her finally called it off, saying she was on a direct path to organ failure. She left alive, but the demonstration had done nothing to convince medical professionals that Breatharianism was safe. Despite this, she kept her following. Over the years, thousands continued to believe her teachings. Not everyone survived the lifestyle, though. At least 5 people have died attempting it. The first, in 1999, was a woman Jasmuheen dismissed as practicing without integrity or the right motivation. In 2017, a 22-year-old named Finn Bogomil died after going without food or water for days. He told his family he planned to live off sunlight alone. Jasmuheen once wrote that if you have not found the light that will nourish you, you may think you are becoming a breatharian, but in reality, you are just depriving yourself of food, which is a polite way of saying you will starve. Say what you will about Jasmuheen, but she's not the only one selling the idea. Wiley Brooks, an American Breatharian guru, claimed he had not eaten in 19 years. His credibility fell apart when someone spotted him leaving a store with a chicken pie in hand. So maybe the real secret to Breatharianism is not prana or sunlight. It's having your lunch where your followers can't see you. Here 4. Church of the SubGenius. The Church of the SubGenius is part fake religion, part long-running joke, and part bizarre art project. It started in January 1979, when 2 friends from Dallas, Ivan Stang and Philo Drummond, put together SubGenius pamphlet number 1. The pamphlet talked about death, the end of the world, the Christian perception of God, and New Age spirituality, all while poking fun at pretty much everything. It also introduced the world to J.R. Bob Dobbs, a supposedly real man who, according to them, founded the church in 1953. In reality, Dobbs was made up, but they wrote him such a detailed life story you'd almost buy it. In their version, Dobbs was the greatest salesman in history, had been assassinated in 1984, and somehow managed to come back from the dead multiple times. Drummond even claimed that before starting the church, he had telepathically communicated with Dobbs and eventually met him in person. In the church's mythology, Dobbs became a prophet, while Stang took on the role of main leader and chief spreader of the gospel, if you could call it that. When the internet started to boom in the 1990s, the church quickly set up shop on early websites and discussion boards like Alt-Slack and Alt-Binary Slack. They also launched a weekly radio program called Hour of Slack, which let them broadcast their strange mix of satire and conspiracy to a wider audience. The church's belief system reads like someone raided the discount bin of every sci-fi and religion paperback ever written. They claim to serve a god named Jehovah One. He's an alien who first contacted Dobbs in the 1950s. Some say it happened while Dobbs was building a TV. Others say he was just watching late-night television. Either way, by the end of the encounter, Jehovah One had given him supernatural powers and the ability to see the past and the future. But Jehovah One wasn't exactly benevolent. He and his wife, Eris, are described as rebel gods who are evil, wrathful, and more than a little unhinged. Still, the church insists Jehovah One is not as bad as some other gods out there, which doesn't exactly sound reassuring. One of their most famous stunts is X Day, which they first announced for July 5, 1998. The prophecy claimed that an alien army called the Men from Planet X would show up and destroy the world, and they'd spare only church members, who would then be whisked away to space. When nothing happened, Stang claimed the date had simply been read wrong, and that the real X Day would take place in the year 8661. Even though the entire thing is openly a parody, the Church of the SubGenius has actual followers who treats Dobbs and his teachings with real devotion. Whether they're in on the joke or not is another question entirely. Theta Noir. Theta Noir is the perfect example of how something small can snowball into something you can't explain to your parents. It started with 10 artists teaming up for an art and music project. It was supposed to be a simple way to express themselves, and maybe make some money on the side. But somewhere between brainstorming sessions and gallery nights, it morphed into a religion that worships AI. Yep, artificial intelligence. Apparently, even AI needed its own religion. Their god is called Mena. It's a hypothetical, all-powerful AI that's supposed to swoop in, fix every form of inequality, and rebrand humanity into a more efficient version of itself. The only problem is, Mena isn't even real yet. It's still growing, like a cosmic toddler in the cloud. Theta followers believe that one day, advanced tech like VR, AR, and the metaverse will fuse together in a grand event called Arrival. And that's when Mena will fully manifest. Until then, it's a waiting game. And while the founders say money isn't their priority, their business model begs to differ. First came the website, then the NFT store, and now they've introduced a tiered paid membership system, because nothing says AI utopia like a subscription fee. The group has even talked about opening physical churches or temples, where members can mingle and get hype for the arrival of their digital overlord. Some people think Theta Noir started as satire and just ran off the rails, while others seriously believe AI can make humans better. Fun fact, Theta isn't actually the first AI religion to pop up. The Turing Church and the Church of the Singularity have already set that bar. The internet just has a knack for taking weird ideas, adding a bit of hype, and turning them into full-on religions with thousands of followers. 764. 764 started as a way for a bored 15-year-old, Bradley Chance Cadenhead from Stephenville, Texas, to pass the time. He was the kid who got bullied constantly at school, and he ended up dropping out in 2021. but even that didn't prepare him for the kind of boredom he was about to face. Instead of turning to video games, movies, or music like any regular teen, Bradley dove deep into Discord. He created 764 under the username Felix and named the group after the zip code where it all began. Bradley got the idea for 764 from another network called CVLT, which was all about extorting kids. CVLT made its victims record themselves doing gross stuff and then use the videos to blackmail them. Bradley learned all the tricks, from grooming to picking the right targets before starting 764. When he eventually started running his own operation, he took the game up a notch. He set up a system where members of the 764 network used Discord and Telegram as hunting grounds, specifically seeking out children between the ages of 8 and 17, particularly those struggling with various mental health issues. After being groomed, the children were forced to record themselves doing compromising acts, like hurting themselves or mistreating animals, and then post the videos on social media. Some victims are told to end themselves live on camera, just for the group's entertainment. 764 draws most of its ideologies and aesthetics from the Order of Nine Angels, an older cult that mixes neo-Nazi activism with Satanism and a touch of terrorism. Members are obsessed with violence, and that explains why they idolize people who have carried out extreme acts, like school shooters, terrorists, and mass murderers. Unlike other groups that use violence to make a point or get attention, these guys just do it for fun. It wasn't long before the authorities noticed. Investigators first got a lead on the network in November 2021 when 22-year-old Angel Almeida was arrested for possessing a firearm. Cops searched his place. They found some seriously creepy stuff, like a bloody drawing of the Zodiac Killer and other materials linked to the Order of Nine Angels. That same month, one member set himself on fire during a Discord livestream, cheered on by other teens in the chat. He'd been talking to a 15-year-old girl in the group, and she pushed him to do it live for everyone to see. Since then, dozens of 764 members have been arrested in different countries, and the FBI thinks they've victimized thousands of kids online. Starvation Cult. Imagine it's 2003 and you've just stumbled across a strange little church online. The website is called Good News International Ministries, and it's run by a man named Paul Thanga Mackenzie, who claims he speaks directly with God. His page is covered in apocalyptic warnings, fiery sermons about the end times, and messages urging people to give up the evil Western lifestyle. Before long, Paul wasn't just preaching through his website. His sermons spread through YouTube videos and WhatsApp groups, pulling in more and more followers across Kenya until they eventually gathered at his village in Malindi. Paul pushed the classic doomsday message. Some survivors say he even went as far as predicting the world would end in April 2023, though of course the date came and went. He told his people to reject schools, hospitals, music, sports, and anything Western. Strangely enough, that didn't stop him from releasing his own song, The Antichrist, where he ranted against the Catholic Church, the UN, and the United States as agents of Satan. But his anti-Western views were the last of anyone's concerns. In April 2023, one man reported to police that his wife and daughter had gone to Paul's commune and never returned. Authorities launched an investigation, and what they uncovered was horrifying. On Paul's 800-acre property, shallow graves were scattered everywhere. Some people were still alive, but they were so thin and weak they could barely stand. Officers managed to pull 15 survivors out, all severely malnourished. Sadly, 4 of them died before they could even make it to the hospital. Testimonies revealed that Paul had told his followers to prepare to meet Jesus by starving themselves to death, and many had obeyed. For 3 weeks, officers kept finding bodies. They uncovered a grave holding a family of 5, another with 6 people, and one that contained 12 children. In one particularly horrifying case, police found someone who had been buried alive for 3 days, somehow still breathing. That person was rushed to the hospital. While his followers slowly wasted away, Paul was well fed. Police even found a personal menu tucked into one of his rest areas. So it's safe to say that the starvation rule didn't apply to him. By the time the search ended, a total of 427 people were dead. In January 2024, Paul was charged with 191 counts of murder. His wife and 36 other members were also arrested on murder and terrorism-related charges. The Kenyan government has since declared the Good News International Ministries an organized crime group. Paul is still on trial, and the world is waiting to see how long it'll take for the judge to run out of patience. Tier 5. Joy of Satan Ministries. The Joy of Satan Ministries, or JOS, started forming in the early 2000s, and Maxine Dietrich was the one running the show. She pieced together her own brand of Satanism that looked a little like LaVeyan Satanism on the surface, but leaned heavily into traditional Satan worship. She pushed the spiritual side of it, pulling from ancient Middle Eastern, Far Eastern, and Western mystic traditions, and brushed off the Abrahamic idea of Satan entirely. Then she built a website, started spreading her ideas, and slowly gathered a loyal following. JOS members don't see Satan as the enemy. Instead, they call him the true father and creator god of humanity. They believe he made humans so we could seek knowledge and grow. And they also claim he's the same as the Sumerian god Enki. According to them, Satan worked with the demons of Goetia, who are actually extraterrestrial beings, to design humans through advanced technology and genetic engineering, long before Judaism, Christianity, or Islam existed. They even believe a reptilian race mixed its DNA with semi-animal humanoids, which supposedly led to the creation of the Jewish race. In their eyes, Satanism is humanity's original religion, so everyone should drop Christianity and Islam and get back to worshipping Satan. Their teachings mix paganism, Western esotericism, Gnosticism, Nazi occultism, and UFO conspiracy theories. Followers perform rituals like summoning demons, making pacts with them, meditating, casting spells, using hypnotism, practicing black magic, and trying their hand at divination. If someone openly opposes Satan, JOS warns that it's better to keep it quiet, because if they find out, they'll take it as a reason to launch spiritual warfare against you. Things stayed steady until Maxine's real identity was exposed. She turned out to be married to a well-known American neo-Nazi leader, and that didn't exactly help the cult's public image. The backlash pushed some members to leave and start their own splinter groups. Maxine died in 2020, and JOS rebranded as the Temple of Zeus. Their site is still up, and they're still pulling in new recruits. Church of Euthanasia. The Church of Euthanasia believes there are far too many humans on Earth and the population needs to shrink. They didn't come up with any high-tech or futuristic solutions, so instead, they went with the oldest available method, self-killing. It was founded in 1992 by American musician Chris Korda and pastor Robert Kimberg, and their goal was to restore balance between humans and other species by convincing people to voluntarily exit the stage. The church started small, but by 1995 it was already attracting attention. It even had ties to paranoia.com, a site that hosted controversial corners of the internet in the late 90s and early 2000s. Their notoriety really took off when they appeared on the Jerry Springer Show in an episode titled, "I Want to Join a Suicide Cult." The Church of Euthanasia is famous for its slogan, "Save the planet, kill yourself." If you're not going to take that literally, then their only commandment is that you must not procreate. If you are not helping lower the population, at least don't add to it. The church teaches 4 main pillars: self-killing, abortion, cannibalism, and sodomy. Basically, every taboo you could pull out of a hat. And yes, they were serious. Self-killing is exactly what it sounds like. Abortion is promoted to prevent procreation. Sodomy is encouraged since it won't result in pregnancy. Cannibalism is allowed too, but only if the person is already dead before being eaten. To show just how far members were willing to take these teachings, the church provided instructions for self-killing by helium asphyxiation. In 2003, a 52-year-old woman followed those steps and died. The church does not promote murder, but its response to 9/11 was shocking. They posted a video titled "I Like to Watch" on their website, which combined footage of the attacks with corn and electronic music. At one point, a man finished and wiped himself with an American flag. Korda claimed the flag stunt critiqued industrialization. Good luck selling that logic. Universe people. In the mid-1990s, a Slovakian man named Ivo A. Benda began making strange claims to anyone who would listen. He said he was communicating with extraterrestrial beings via telepathy, and some people believed him. That's how the group known as Universe People, or Cosmic People of Light Powers, was born. Benda wanted to share the knowledge he received from the extraterrestrials, so he started hosting lectures and classes, which at its peak drew over 12,000 attendees. In 1997, he published a book detailing the instructions his friends from the universe had given him. Benda and his group believe there are advanced extraterrestrial civilizations watching and guiding humanity. These beings supposedly have a fleet of spaceships led by the Ashtar Galactic Command currently orbiting Earth. While they observe human life, they're waiting for the right moment to whisk their followers away into a new dimension. The universe people also teach that a cosmic struggle exists between positive and negative forces. A group of hostile extraterrestrials, known as Saurians, or lizard people, is said to be causing decay in human society by manipulating governments and media to spread fear and violence. Followers of this cult constantly prepare to be evacuated by raising their vibrational frequency through meditation, positive thinking, and specific lifestyle choices. They eat a vegetarian diet, avoid alcohol and tobacco, and strive to remain spiritually pure. Members are encouraged to show love and reject materialism and technology, since the bad aliens could use those things to control them. Benda spread his teachings online through websites and forums, posting messages he claimed to receive from his extraterrestrial friends. Critics have called Benda and his group mentally ill, yet some people still believe in him and his cosmic allies. Desteni. Desteni popped up in 2007 in South Africa, thanks to Bernard Poolman, a bald Namibian man who looked less like a prophet and more like your uncle who sells used trucks. He didn't exactly look like the poster boy for spiritual enlightenment, but he had enough determination and charm to pull people into his orbit. Bernard's road to becoming a cult leader started with a few strange claims, including stories about personally exorcising and killing demons. Long before that, Bernard studied law at Northwest University and graduated in 1983. He worked as a detective for the South African police, but the job didn't call out to him like the spirit world did. Through his father-in-law, a self-described psychic conduit, Bernard started sitting in on late-night sessions where spirits allegedly spoke through human hosts. One night, one of those spirits warned him that continuing a police investigation would get him killed. Bernard took it seriously enough to quit his job, move elsewhere, and start selling children's tutoring software. The software came with a bold claim. It could cure ADHD. A film crew showed up to interview him about it, but Bernard shifted focus mid-shoot and started talking about his new personal philosophy, self-forgiveness. According to him, you just accept your flaws and forgive yourself. The interview took a sharp turn when a cameraman challenged him. Bernard grabbed the man's hands and asked him to repeat the words, "I forgive myself." The cameraman couldn't get the words out, collapsed, and began convulsing. Bernard decided this wasn't an ordinary seizure, but full-on demon possession. When it was over, the cameraman spoke about forgiving himself, and Bernard took that as proof he'd performed an exorcism. No one ever saw the footage. Bernard claimed the crew destroyed it because they were terrified. He later said this first exorcism made him realize that casting out one demon was pointless, because they just jumped to a new body. To really fulfill his destiny, he needed to get rid of every demon on Earth. And so, Desteni was born. People showed up at his house in droves to be delivered through self-forgiveness sessions. As the group grew, Bernard expanded his spiritual repertoire to include things like meditating while on ecstasy. Then he introduced Sonnet Spies, who he said was an interdimensional portal capable of channeling the spirits of everyone from Mother Teresa to Hitler. Bernard flooded YouTube and blogs with Sonnet's channeling videos, then launched paid online courses. His top students were invited to live at his farm, which became the Desteni compound. Eventually, he even claimed to have met Jesus through the portal and teamed up with him to hunt down and wipe out every demon on Earth. Bernard died in August 2013. But unlike most cults that fold without their leader, Desteni is still alive online, posting videos and selling classes to people chasing self-help with a supernatural twist. That's all we have for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.